Hello, I'm John Degree from Classical Historian here to present you Lesson 10, The Age of Exploration and Columbus. 15th century Europe was a continent of great activity. Remember, in the 1300s, the Renaissance had begun in Italy, and it spread west and north throughout Europe. It had amazing, great impact on the rest of Europe. In the Renaissance, Italian city-states grew wealthy with their trade with Asia and the Mediterranean trade, and also the Ottoman Empire conquered the Byzantine Empire. During these years where the Ottomans were attacking the remnants of the Byzantine Empire, Greek priests and other Byzantines fled this area and took with them manuscripts and important documents, great literature from the classical world, and they escaped to Italy. And Italians became very interested in the classical world based on all these texts and information and knowledge of the Greek Orthodox priests and everybody escaping from the Ottomans. And the continued wealth from the trade really spurred on this renaissance of learning, its rebirth of classical Greek and Roman learning. And so this wealth from the trade and also interest in classical works spread throughout Europe. And as I mentioned before, the Ottomans conquered this area. And so now the Europeans, whenever they wanted to do any type of business with Asia, they had to go to this area and trade with the Ottomans and pay higher fees. And so there was this great desire to find another path to Asia. And of course, the fastest way of traveling for most of history has been by sea. During this time as well, there were great advancements in technology, in seagoing technologies, such as the Astrolabe. And there was great fervor among Catholics to spread their faith around the world. And also, there was this feeling of exploration that the world was out there. And for many people, they wanted to see it, explore, and conquer it. So the two countries that were most eager and most advanced in the 1400s to trade and to travel were Spain and Portugal. Prince Henry the Navigator is the son of the King of Portugal. He was really interested in traveling, and he established this college or this school where he invited explorers from around Europe to live at his castle, and he funded their journeys. The goal of these explorers was to travel around the Cape of Good Horn here, South Africa, and go to India and Asia. And Prince Henry the Navigator died before any of his sailors could do that. But within 34 years, um, Bartholomew Diaz was able to travel to the tip of South America, and Vasco da Gama was the first to go all the way to India. And in doing this, the Portuguese opened up this new trade route where they could bypass the Ottoman Empire, and they could go and um, buy and sell and receive jewels, spices, silk, and textiles from Asia. And so this great trade route opened up, and this brought more wealth to Europe as well. Now, um, there were some people, not many, who believed that the Earth was actually smaller than believed, and they had this vision to travel west from Portugal, and they believed they would end up in Asia. Because at that time, nobody in the world knew that the North and South America existed. Nobody knew that it existed. And almost everybody believed the world was round. This idea that people thought the world was flat, that's a myth. Sailors especially knew the world was round because they could see how ships like disappeared on the ocean when they traveled further and further away. All right. They slowly, seemingly went down as they followed the curvature of the earth. So Columbus was a man who's born in Italy in a place called Genoa. And he had a vision, right, to go west and to go right into Asia. And there are many who say it's not fair to say that nobody knew North and South America didn't exist. People lived there. They knew it existed. Well, it is true that the Native Americans did live in North and South America at that time. Okay. It's believed many centuries before that they walked over from Asia and inhabited this area. But the the American Indians did not know they lived there. They had no reading and writing. They didn't draw maps. Their boats were smaller, like kayaks or canoes, and they didn't really communicate with each other. There were no advanced places of learning. There were no groups of Indians setting out to explore, drawing up maps, writing about what they'd seen. So they didn't know where they were. And so them living here had no effect on anybody else. Okay, but Columbus then, he believed he's going to go here and find Asia. But in fact, as you know, he didn't. He landed in the Bahamas. Okay. He landed on the day of the Salvador, um, the Savior. And so he named his place where he landed San Salvador. And Columbus sailed for Spain. All right. Spain hired Columbus to sail to claim new land for Spain, to spread the Catholic faith, and to bring back enormous wealth. So Columbus discovers America in 1492. A discovery means when you find something new and you tell everybody else about it, and it changes the course of history. So Columbus did these things. It was his discovery that led to the European mass migration to North and South America, to Spain bringing their Spanish culture, to English, to the French bringing their culture, to the Portuguese bringing their culture, and also to the American Indians intermarrying with the Europeans and creating new people. And of course, eventually new countries such as the United States of America or Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela. All the countries that exist in North and South America really have their beginning with Christopher Columbus's discovery. Now, when he sailed, this map shows you the knowledge of the world. Everybody believed it was Europe, Asia, and Africa, and that was it. Okay. So it was really a dangerous journey. Okay. His sailors believed that they could never carry enough food to make the journey all the way to Asia. Um, so he was risking his life to do this, and he was successful. He took 4 journeys. The entire time he believed he was still in Asia. It wasn't until the 1500s where an Italian navigator named Amerigo Vespucci, Amerigo Vespucci realized that these were two new continents. They were not Asia. And it is because of his discoveries that we call this land North America and the land down here South America. So Columbus and the natives. When Columbus saw the natives, he remarked in his diary that they are very peaceful people, very loving people, and he could see that other tribes made these Indians their slaves. And he wrote that. He wrote that in his journal as well, that the tribe that he came into contact with, the Tainos, um, because of their nature, um, And I guess maybe their lack of technology or whatever, lack of aggressiveness, they were victims of becoming slaves to the other tribes. And um, initially, Columbus tried to trade with them. He believed that they would have massive amounts of gold, and he established a fort and went back to Europe to tell the king and queen about the natives. And what he did was he captured a bunch of the natives as well, and he brought them back to be slaves. Okay. We have to remember this is 1492. Um, Worldwide, slavery was everywhere. Everybody had slaves. So what Columbus was doing was not unique in making these Indian slaves. Um, in North and South America, the Indians themselves had slavery. Um, Now, slavery is wrong, it's immoral, it's evil. But we also have to realize that at that time, 1492, it was common and it was normal. Um, so Columbus did bring them back for as slaves. He also intended for them to be baptized as Catholics and to be Christians. Um, Now, when Columbus returned to the Bahamas, the Spanish that he left there in the fort were all killed. They were all killed. And so, this shows us that the Indians did not want the Spanish to be there, that they fought with the Spanish, that if it was up to the Indians, the Spanish would all be killed. And so you have this, constant conflict between the newcomers, the Spanish, and the Indians. Now, um, when the Indians first saw Columbus and his men, they really thought that they were like gods because Columbus and his men brought horses, and the horse did not exist in North America. And Indians had believed that these gods would come in really great ships and walk on four legs one day. And so they believed the Spanish were these gods. And the Spanish had armor, they had weapons, they had much higher technology. And it is believed with the right positioning, one Spanish soldier could fight and win a battle against 50 American Indians. And so there was really, not much of a chance for the Indians to survive. And but what killed the Indians the most was the diseases that the Spanish naturally had. In Europe, there were childhood diseases like mumps and measles and chickenpox, and the Indians didn't have any of these. And so it's believed 90% of American Indians in North and South America, 90% died from these diseases that the Europeans had. Now, the Europeans had no idea that they had these diseases and that they would kill other people. They didn't know. Just it was 1482. There was a lot of lack of knowledge in medicine. The Indians also had diseases that they gave to the Spanish. So, for example, sexually transmitted diseases were passed from the Indians to the Europeans, and the Europeans brought those back to Europe. And those, like syphilis and gonorrhea, tended to make people crazy and eventually kill them as well. But not 90% of the people. Uh, so 50 years after Columbus landed, the Taínos tribe was extinct. There was none left. Okay, so really sad, right? Destruction of the Indian culture. However, in the new land, as the Spanish explored and settled new lands, they intermarried with the American Indians, and a new cultures were created, right? Um, we know in the year 2025, just look at all the different countries in North and South America. These are all, mixtures of American Indian and European cultures. So um, it's a good thing, right? The creation of new countries, new cultures, new peoples. And some of the Native Americans had practiced cannibalism. That's eating people, right? Cannibalism. They also believed you could marry as many women as you wanted to, right? So the Native American men would have as many wives as they could feed. Um, Also, some of them practiced human sacrifice. And so the Spanish, being Catholic, made all of these things against the law, right? You cannot eat people. Cannibalism is wrong. You can't have multiple wives. A man can only marry one wife. Okay. And human sacrifice is wrong. So those were good things that the Spanish brought with them. So Columbus Day today, in the 70s and 80s, Columbus was celebrated as a hero. Then over time, people realized, hey, Columbus, he brought over some things that weren't so good for the Taínos, for example, with chicken pox and smallpox. Columbus himself never killed an Indian. He never injured an Indian. Unfortunately, though, some of his soldiers that he brought did. His soldiers would not listen to Columbus. Columbus actually got in trouble with the king and queen because he could not control his soldiers. Um, However, Columbus himself showed great care towards the Indians. And so America has Columbus Day as a federal holiday. And when I was a kid in the 70s in Colufornia, we received that day off from school. But in California today, officially, Californian politicians declared Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day, right? The day to honor the Native Americans. This is a picture of a celebration in New York City. New York City has a massive parade. There are many Italian Americans in New York City. They're very proud of Columbus and what he brought over to the Americas, right? He brought over Western civilization, Catholicism, Christianity. And so Columbus Day today is a type of, it's a controversy, an issue people discuss. Was Columbus a hero? Should he be a national hero? Should we honor him for bringing over a Western civilization, or should we not? Is he a bad guy? Here at Classical Historian, we try to present you with all those facts, and we believe that Western civilization, Christianity, Judeo-Christian culture has many excellent things for mankind. We believe that cannibalism is wrong, human sacrifice is wrong, polygamy is wrong, and that Columbus did bring over Western civilization to North and South America, and eventually this was a good thing. We also, though, recognize Columbus himself wasn't a saint, right? The Catholic Church doesn't try to proclaim Saint Columbus. Nobody says he was a saint. He had faults, but he was not a murderer or rapist. He did not intend to do harm, great harm to the Indians. All right, vocabulary. Renaissance was a rebirth of classical Greek and Roman thought and art in Europe. Age of exploration. 1400s, 1700s, Europeans explored and colonized much of the world. Prince Henry the Navigator, this Portuguese prince, sponsored Europeans to explore and map the world. Bartholomew Diaz. Diaz was the first to sail around the southern tip of Africa. Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama was the first to sail to India and back to Portugal. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer who discovered America for Spain. Reconquista was a war where Christian Spaniards reconquered their country from the Muslim Moors. American Indians are also known as Native Americans. Polygamy is the practice of having more than one wife at the same time. Columbus Day is a federal holiday set aside to honor Columbus's discovery of America. I'm John DeRee from Classical Historian. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.